Temperatures are expected to soar into the high 90s for the third day in a row, and we're tracking how first responders are handling the heat wave. So joining us this morning is Rick Graves from Portland Fire and Rescue. Rick, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning. Okay, can you tell us about some of the work that Portland Fire and Rescue does during a heat event like this?
Heat event, weather affects our responses, certainly. It affects the types of calls that we respond to. Additionally, it affects how the heat affects us when we respond to those emergencies. On Sunday, we had many structural fires where our command officers increased the number of personnel en route to the scene as a result of a potential need to have extended work being performed in the heat, such that we would probably need to rotate the members at a higher level. So not only does the heat sort of affect the types of calls we go on, it affects our tactics and strategies upon arrival at those scenes as well. We do our very best to take care of the men and women in Portland Fire and Rescue that sit in those big red rigs and respond to your emergencies, while at the same time trying to manage those that we respond to. So it's a holistic approach that we try to do our very best at minimizing any sort of damages to anybody. That includes our responders.
And, obviously you are the ones who rush to help people if they need help, but there's some things that we can all do today to help you guys out. What would you like people to know, the things that people can have in their own control that they can do to stay safe in this heat?
Yeah, certainly. Interestingly enough, we haven't responded to a large number of heat illness calls, but there's been a lot of medical calls that could be exacerbated as a result of the heat index that people are seeing. And now we're into day 2 or possibly day 3 of this increased heat. And somebody may feel the need that I just can't take it anymore. I need to get outside and do something. It's summertime here in Oregon. We're not having the sun rise at 9 a.m. and set at 4 p.m. I want to take advantage of the day and certainly do so, but do so in the earlier morning hours when the heat hasn't hit yet. Make plans to sort of relax in the afternoon as the heat increases. Those are some things that you can do yourself to avoid becoming a victim of heat illness. It isn't time to start cutting the grass at 4:30 in the afternoon. That's time to sit down and have your iced tea and throw the ball for your dog or whatnot.
Yeah, that sounds a lot better than cutting the grass. Let's say that you're out and you do see somebody who looks like maybe they're struggling with the heat. Maybe they are homeless, maybe they're not. What is in our power as community members to do? How should we handle that situation?
If you see somebody who looks like they're having a difficult time for whatever reason, if you can make a verbal contact and just ask, maybe what you're seeing is their baseline normal, and you'll come away with, yeah, that's not an emergency. But if your interaction seems as if you're not having good, lucid communication with an individual, certainly call 911 and explain the situation that you're seeing. It could be just an investigation call. It could lead to a heat illness, or it could be something else. So, regardless of the environmental conditions we're seeing, if you see somebody struggling, certainly be a great community member. Reach out to them and ask, are you okay? Can we help you? Can I call emergency services? There's a myriad of services across the city of Portland right now that can assist individuals, whether it be through programming from any of the agencies within the public safety service area within the city of Portland has the ability to assist folks when they're struggling. There's a new cooling method out that the county has adopted as a mechanism to keep people cool. So we have in the field capabilities of reducing these heat illness situations just with effectively water and a tarp. So the city of Portland is doing everything it possibly can, whether it be Portland Fire and Rescue or the Community Health Assess and Treat, Portland Street Response, PPB. We're all trained in mechanisms and ways to address environmental conditions and how they affect those in our community. And we'll place the correct responder en route to address an emergency that may be there.
And something we see a lot during heat events are, homeless campfires. Are you guys worried about that today?
I don't know if you need to say today. We're always concerned about,
Good point.
encampment fires, right? fire suppression is a science that's studied at a very high level, and it gives us direction on what's our best tactics to utilize in suppressing a fire in a design structure that is what you'd expect to see in today's world. Unfortunately, houseless encampments don't afford us to have that same sort of knowledge. Tarps, petroleum products strewn about, lots of fuels, maybe a little bit of chaos. It makes things a little more difficult in responding when you have a fire emergency. And those are typically tucked away in areas that are near tree stands that can extend into tree stands, which then extend into buildings. The other evening, about midnight, we had a debris fire, a large debris fire that appears to have been a former homeless camp that extended into a structure. That was one of those incidents I mentioned that went to a second alarm just preventatively. A large fire prevents you to see a structure. There's an occupied apartment complex next door with 45 units. You can have a high potential rescue. So in that case, what was probably a houseless encampment did catch fire for an unknown reason, and it extended to a commercial structure. Fortunately, not the apartment structure, but we constantly are concerned about open flame use in a non-controlled environment, which typically occurs in those houseless encampments.
All right, Rick Graves with Portland Fire and Rescue, thank you so much. That was such great information and good advice for all of us. We really appreciate everything that you and your crews are doing. Thanks.
Thanks for sharing our message.
Of course.